Hello, everyone. We're Ruben and Veronica with Red Alpha Custom Prints here for another episode of Showmates. We want to thank you for tuning in. We know that you guys have busy lives, and we hope that the content that we create can be entertaining. Make you laugh, make you think, and something that you look forward to another episode. Our Showmates brand started with our interest in watching shows. I think one of the first shows that we watched, on the streaming channel was probably The Walking Dead.
Mhm.
And so we're huge fans of The Walking Dead. All the big ones out there, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. I think we have several different streaming apps. I think it's kind of normal now that people
Mhm.
are kind of moving away from cable and streaming now.
Yeah.
But we've been into shows and movies even before they had the streaming channels. I mean, we were getting them on at Redbox, and if you really want to go back, getting videos at Blockbuster Video, and then going to the Redbox, and what's that other one, that local one, that Hollywood Video was another one that we went to. So, man, I've been into movies for as long as I can remember. And then as soon as the show started getting really good, the writing and the acting and all that, um, we started getting into those, and here we are. It's a big part of our lives, so much so that we created a brand around it. So Showmates, if I guess if a show, either we really like the show, or it makes an impact, or just something that we enjoy. I'll usually get the inspiration to do a design that's has that theme of that show, and so we have several different designs from some of our favorite shows, and we have them listed on our Etsy website. It's Red Alpha Custom, and so if you go to our Etsy website, you'll see not only our Showmates brand, but some of our other brands as well. We have about maybe 5 or 6 different brands, like Bully Proof and Armor of God, and The Adventures of Tito Tamale, and a new one, Gen Mexican, that we just came up with not too long ago. But today it's all about Showmates. And what show are
Oh,
we're
hold
gonna
on. You
discuss
didn't give
today?
me the cue. We had.
There's the cue.
Okay. See
Let's see
what
if
it
you can guess it.
is.
Man, I don't know, but all of a sudden, that's going to be serious. So if you didn't guess it by the song, and you probably looked at the title, hopefully you guys didn't cheat and look at the title. But if you didn't guess it by the song, we're going to talk about Squid Games. Squid Games is a great show, and we just finished watching season two
Mhm.
of Squid Games, and and so for those of you who maybe haven't seen the show, and you're tuning into to our channel to kind of see what we think about the show and if we recommend it or not. Um, I mean, as far as just a straight recommendation, the show is great. It's one of those that you can get into and binge. It is binge worthy, I would say. And so, season two starts with the main character, Ji Hoon, player 456, um, basically on the run from the masters, or the controllers and the creators of the Squid Games. And now Squid Games is a game design where they take people who are either they're in debt, or they're homeless,
They're
or
just like down on their luck
they're down on their luck, and
financially.
financially, and you have these rich elite people that are looking to entertain themselves, and so they created these games that these people can come and participate in, and if they win, they can take home a lot of money, but if they lose their life. And
Mhm.
so to the rich elite, their lives don't mean anything. and they actually consider them trash, and it's but when you start to watch the show, you really connect with the players, and you kind of, maybe sometimes you can even relate to why they're there. I
Mhm.
remember season one where where the guy's friend was there, and he says, "What are you doing here? I thought you were well off." you know
Oh yeah, I
and so the guy had gotten
oh.
into some debt, and or owed some people money that he couldn't pay back, and so they were there playing these games for their life, trying to recover what they could. Money was going to be the thing that's going to solve their issues. But so Ji-hoon won the whole season one. He won that, and so he ended up winning over 40 billion won, which it's about $35 million,
Yeah,
more or
approximately.
less. Some of that. So he has the money. Season two shows he's got his hair dyed pink, and he's on the run. He receives a call from the masters, and they're trying to get him to like to come back.
Mhm.
For, I guess, to maybe recruit him to be one of the organizers, or
Yeah.
the I don't know what they were recruiting him for, but
Yeah.
his main motivation is he wanted to bring them down, because he thought
Mhm.
that, obviously, the shows are, I mean, the games are, you know cruel,
Mhm.
and so what they were doing kind of behind the games is like, they would harvest people's organs, and sell them on the black market. And so that's part of it. When some of the participants would, they would shoot these people, and so they would, if they were still alive, they would, they take out their organs, and then they would cremate them, and then, that's what they were doing for a long time. And uh and so we come there, and then Ji-hoon, he, what's that's the start of it, right?
Yeah, so they were tracking him. He didn't know how. Well, he was kind of um, he was scared and a little like having some panic attacks and stuff like that. But he found that they had put a little tracking chip like behind his ear.
Hmm.
Like he was thinking, how can they find me, right? And so he started looking and he found it. He took it out, and then he uh yeah, I guess he allowed himself like to get caught.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was trying to figure out. Actually, he had hired a crew, right, to try to find the island where the games,
Mhm.
were being held, and so they were on a remote island. And so whenever the player would be selected, they would, put them to sleep,
Mhm.
and then so they'd wake up, and they would be, on an island that they didn't know how to get there. And so the interesting thing about it is that, it wasn't like they were forced to participate. They were down on the luck, and there is
Recruiter.
a recruiter, right?
Mhm.
A recruiter that I guess he knows how to find them, right?
Mhm.
He knows how to identify the people that are down on their lucks. And um and so he offers them, the opportunity to play a kids game
Mhm.
for money. And so, I guess if they qualify, if he I think he kind of looks at them as like, see how desperate they are.
Mhm.
If they're really desperate, then I'm going to give them a card, because those are the type of people that we want to play the game.
Mhm.
And so they play this game. So the first game that they play, when they see them, it's these little cards
Yeah,
where,
envelopes. They look like stuffed
envelope,
envelopes.
yeah, stuff envelopes, where there's one on the ground, and you throw the other envelope to try to flip the one on the ground over. And if you flip
Excuse me.
the envelope over, then you win. But you lose, whenever you do it. And he was slapping them whenever, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, he was slapping them whenever they lost, but he would give them a chance, and so they kept on going. And then he would invite them, and so that's how the actual games that they were participating in, they were kind of structured that way. They were childhood games that they knew, that they were familiar with, but the consequences of losing, was really big. If
Hmm.
you lose a game, if you don't do it on time, if you fail the challenge, you lose your life. So the very first challenge, whenever you get to the, I guess, the campus, or on the island, is something similar to red light, green light.
Hmm.
And so that song, if you hear that song, and it kind of has the same, like the same flow as a child song, right? And so red light, green light, and so they have this mechanical doll that turns her head, and she's like saying red light, green light, and then so whenever she turns her head around, whoever moves, they have their staff,
Their
their
guards.
guards that are watching, and whoever moves, they shoot them. And then they have other people that come out with, with coffins, with a bow on it, and then they mark the coffins, so that way, they can say, okay, this person right here, is, it was shot here or something like that, and they're still alive, they're still breathing, or they just, I guess we really don't know what the
Yeah,
markings
well,
are,
those
right?
were the mark was to identify the ones that were not dead so that they can harvest their organs.
Yeah.
But the harvesting of the organs was something that a couple of the guards, several guards were into. That was their own like
The
uh,
side hustle.
side hustle. It wasn't part of the
Oh.
game itself. So um, yeah, so that was it. And so the the first game is the red light green light, and so player 456, that's the main guy. He well, he's already in there, and he's trying to help these people uh um to not get killed. And so he tells them, you need to stay very still, because whenever he played at the in the first season, they didn't know, and so people were moving, and they were getting shot
Mhm.
and eliminated. That's the word that they use,
Eliminate it.
eliminated.
Mhm.
And so he was telling them, stay still, and then get behind somebody that's bigger than you, or get in a line. That way, if you do move, they can't sense you. And so he was able to help a lot of people uh, survive, and some people weren't really believing him. Like,
Mhm.
how do you know? And
Mhm.
so those that didn't believe him, they were getting shot, or some people some players that they were just so scared, because of the first uh, the first elimination.
Mhm.
They noticed that people were getting killed, and so obviously they're like,
Start panicking.
What's going on
Can you
here? Like,
imagine?
I'm gonna die
Yeah.
if I don't win this game. And so naturally, some people are panicking, some are stressing out and
Mhm.
crying, and so
Running, trying to run away,
run
and
away, or
yeah.
so it was. He was trying to help them, and there are some people that were just, you want to introduce that that guy that was so
Thanos.
obnoxious.
So there was a, what was his number, 230?
It was 122, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead. I have it
So
in front of
so
me.
his name was Thanos. He had purple hair. He was a rap artist, right? And so they were from Korea, and so he was a famous guy. He got in there because he had lost a lot of money in cryptocurrency, and so funny, the guy that was the MG coin or something
Uh
like that
huh.
was also there too. And so, but this guy Thanos, he's like the main, well, not the main, like villain, but he is like one of the main ones, right? Antagonist, I guess, if you want to
Antagonist.
call it, right? And so he's just crazy and just like instigating stuff, and he was acting like a clown in the middle, like right from the beginning, almost like even though people were falling, being shot, all around him, he just didn't, like, it didn't matter to him. It
He
was a
actually
game.
he actually pushed people
Oh yeah, yeah.
when they're doing the red light green light. so that they could die,
Hmm.
and they got killed.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and so the interesting thing about the game, right? It's like, I mean, not the game, but the show is that whenever you put people in this type of environment, right? And so the people who didn't know what they were up against, right? They just thought that they were going to be given a chance to change their life, right? They're
mhm,
going to have to do some things. Maybe I'm going to have to work, or well, the game. They didn't know that they were going to die, right? And so all of these people are there for the same reason, but they start to create like these cliques, right?
mhm, yeah,
So it's like, Jihoon, he had people that were attracted to him, and so they had a little, I don't know, like a 5 or 6 man team, that was basically, his team in all
mhm.
all of the games. And then the guy Thanos, he had his little,
Misfit,
misfit
yeah.
sidekick, and he his miscreants, and and people that were on his side. And then what ends up happening is you had two sides, from all of the people. It was like 400 something people, right?
No,
They started out, right?
well, 456 because
456, yeah.
456.
So 456 people that participated, and then they were basically split in half,
Mhm.
and so one half was the blue, right? The circle, and one half was the X, which.
Right. So the one of the things that was also introduced in the season 2 was after each game, the players had an opportunity to vote whether they wanted to continue or whether they wanted to stop. So there's the circle or the X, which is stop, right?
Mhm,
And so and then whatever money was accumulated, so every player that was eliminated, there was a dollar amount attached to each player, and so that amount was multiplied by the number of players that were eliminated, and so that's how the jackpot was accruing. And
mhm,
so after the first game, I'm not sure how much they accrued, but people were like, that's not enough for me to get out of my debt, and might as well, be dead.
mhm.
But they had the opportunity to vote whether they wanted to continue or stop. If they stopped, all the money that was accumulated, it was just divided between the surviving players, and so that's where the blue circle and the red X comes
Yeah, yeah. And so one thing that really stood out about the blue and the red X, right, is that, so
in.
so I'm also a fan of the Matrix, right? And
Mhm,
so you can see the influence of the blue and the red,
mhm,
right? And so the ones who chose the blue, those were the ones that wanted to stay in the game,
mhm.
right? In the Matrix, you take the blue pill and then you stay
And you
in the
stay in the
Matrix,
game.
right? You stay in the game, right?
You stay
And
safe.
yeah, and the red pill wakes you up, and the
Mhm.
X, you get out of there, right? In Squid Games. And so I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
It's like, the influence there, right?
Yeah.
And so there were people who were going back and forth, because it's like, since we have a vote, half the people were trying to talk them into it. And there's this one, mother and son that are there, and the mom, she basically agreed to play the game to pay her son's debt,
Mhm.
and the son didn't know about it, and he's there, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Mom, what are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And so there's different characters that are there for different reasons. There was a man whose daughter, right, who had cancer, and so
Mhm.
his little daughter, I mean, she had to be like, 1 or 2 years old, had cancer, and he couldn't afford treatment. And so he basically, agreed to go to the Squid Game so that way he can help his daughter. And then there was another a young lady that was actually one of the characters at like their version of Disney World, right? She was a rabbit, and so she had contact with that little girl. She handed her some candy or something like that, right? And so there was a connection there. So she recognized the father as being
Mhm.
the father of the little girl.
Yeah, but she was on the other side. She was a guard of the Squid Game,
Hmm.
and so she was the one that was eliminating players. But she did notice him whenever she was looking through her scope, and he was moving at the time, I think, but she
She didn't
didn't
shoot him,
shoot
yeah. But she was selected too in the
him.
same way because she was living out of her car, and so she was down. Like they picked the people to play. Maybe they are worse off. I don't know, but it seems like the like everybody that's involved can be manipulated. Like there's
Mhm.
something missing in their life. You know, most of them it seems like financial type issues, and and so they keep doing things that are wrong because they I guess they see their financial situation is more important. um, like the one recruiter, whenever uh, Ji Hoon kind of found him, right? And um and so he hired those people to go do that, and he ended up making those two people that, like, he ended up capturing two of the men that Ji Hoon hired, and he forced them to play Russian roulette. And so uh, one of them didn't make it,
Mhm.
and so the other one, he was captured, but Jihoon got to him, and then he ended up playing Russian roulette with him,
Mhm.
with
With the
that with
recruiter.
the recruiter, right? And so the recruiter confessed, right? He was like, I was in a situation, and they it was like I was faced with, do I you know stay with this organization, or do I shoot my father? And he said he shot his father without hesitation, right? And so the thing that was kind of interesting in that interaction was that it almost seemed like, even though they were doing something like evil, and that just wasn't right, there was still some kind of code that they lived by. Because so when Jihoon and that guy were playing the Russian roulette, there was they got to the point where it was like, it's either you're gonna this one or this one,
Mhm.
bullet, right? It's like, because they weren't spinning it, they were just like
Going back
going
and
back
forth,
and,
taking
yeah,
turns.
taking turns. And it was like, it got to the point where it's like, it's got to be this one or the next one, and you're gonna die, right? And so it went to the recruiter,
Mhm.
and so uh Ji-hoon said, you know you can shoot me, you know or but before you do, you have to admit that you're just like their dog,
Yeah.
right? And then when it flipped to the other thing, he the recruiter told him, okay, now you can shoot me, but you have to admit that everybody's the same.
Mhm.
And I thought that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like, it just depends on where you're at, right? And so the recruiter, there was something about the recruiter that he had to do it too, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't like he was just an evil guy, and and he wanted to do evil. His name isn't Skeletor, right? He was a normal person at one time, and he was facing a situation that he couldn't get out of, and so they offered him a solution, and it just so happened that he kept going back. And I think that that's what they were trying to do with Jihoon, is they were trying to recruit him
Mhm.
because they saw him as an asset, right? And if you look at the players, some of the players were like, in the first one, were connected to some of the other guys right here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that whenever we get into it. So we go there, and what was the next thing that you got?
Also, on that, the standoff, the Russian roulette with Jaehoon and the recruiter. So Jaehoon, you know, if it's his turn, it doesn't shoot, and so the very last one is the bullet, right?
Mhm.
And so the turn belonged to the recruiter, and so the
Mhm.
recruiter, he didn't concede, like he was. That's when Jaehoon said, just confess and tell me that you're just their dog, you're just you're nobody.
Mhm.
And he didn't. He shot himself.
Mhm.
He played it to the very end.
Yeah, it's like pride, right?
Yeah.
Or something. I would have been like, no one else is here, right? But I mean, so they still have a code, but yeah, you're right. And
That was kind of harsh, but
yeah. So you don't know what you don't actually know what you would do until you're facing a situation that's like that. And I always say, you know that the problems that we have, they're not really problems, they're issues,
Mhm.
right? There are things that can go away with money, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, if we had enough money in the bank, or if we close enough business, most of the things that we consider problems aren't really problems.
Mhm.
They're just issues. Now, problems are things like that little girl. She had cancer, right? And so, even if he had money for treatment, that doesn't mean that she's going to be cured, right?
Mhm.
And so that now cancer, think terminal illnesses, those types of things, those are problems, right? Most of the things that we face in life, if you can remove it with money, it's not really a problem. It's an issue. And so the problem is you got to get off your butt and go and go make some money,
Yeah.
go close some sales, right? Go sit around and talk about one of your brands so that you can sell some T-shirts, right? So if you guys see right here, did we even say that?
No.
So got so excited to talk
Mhm.
about the show. As you can see,
Yeah.
we made
Well,
a
my husband Ruben's the one that designed it. So
yeah, so see, it's Showmates, right? But it's got the font of the Squid Games,
yeah.
and then we got the little, these symbols right here. These symbols represent the staff. They're like rank in the staff, right? So like the people who have the square on their mask, those are the highest ranking, and I think it goes down to, I think the triangles are like the are the lowest, right?
Yeah, I don't.
And so you got to be astute. I study this stuff,
I
and
didn't look it
yeah, I just remembered it, and
up.
and so uh, I'm like, we watched another movie not too long ago. One of my favorites is called Almost Heroes,
Mhm.
and so there's a section where they need to find someone to help them out of. They were being chased by who, Santana, and and they were being chased, and so they needed some help, and so they came across some old Indian men,
Holding.
and so they were chiefs, right? They were warriors, and they were like, we'll help you, and they judged them by their age, right? They, oh, it's okay, and they were like, no, whenever the time comes, we're the warrior spirit's going to come out of us, and then we'll be able to defend you in battle, right? Well, that's the way that I am when I said all of that to say that's how I am. Whenever it's go time, all of this stuff, I just remember it, and then we start talking about it, and we have a successful show,
Mhm.
right? I don't study for the test. I just remember whenever it's go time, right? So there's
Yeah.
ranks, and so I imagine you get ranks by through performance, right? Because that one girl that was she was a triangle, right? And she didn't want to participate in the harvesting of the organs.
Mhm.
So she didn't have a problem killing these people, shooting them, but she had a problem with them taking their organs, right? So she was shooting them to make sure that they died, right? So they would shoot them in the head, or she'd have them open up the the coffins so that make sure that they're dead. And so she started to ruffle some feathers within the staff, right? And so they, two of them came and they broke into her room and was like tried to set her straight. They said, either you get in line or we're going to hurt you, right? And so, but she wasn't with it, right? I think that she's even though she's on the bad side, I think she's one that could probably, you know, uh, come over to the good side,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so, but let's talk a little bit more about the other players, right? There, so, so we got Ji Hoon, which is the main guy, and then we told you about the mother and the father, and the names are so close that we'd get them confused. I was gonna print some pictures or something like that. You just have to take our word for it, and whenever you actually watch it, you say, "Oh, okay, that's the son," and "Oh,
Mhm.
that's Thanos," so you'll know that guy, and
Mhm.
MG Coin, you're gonna
Mhm.
know those guys, and so you'll know what we're talking about whenever we watch the show, right? But so whenever you get to the individual games, right? The first one, they don't really have their clicks yet. It's just 450 people out on a big field playing red light, green light.
Mhm.
Then, but in the second game, right, they had to start,
It
in
was around.
between.
It was around that round thing.
Was it?
The platform that was in the middle. It
Hmm.
was going round and round, and then they would say a number. like the first one was 10, so they had to get into groups of 10
Hmm.
and then run into, there's rooms all, doors all around it, around in that room,
Hmm.
and so you had to get into one of the rooms and lock it
Hmm.
before they, I don't know how
I
much
think
time
it's
they
called
had.
Mingle. I think it was called Mingle or something like that, because basically you have have everybody there all in a group, and then it's spinning around like a carousel,
Mhm.
and then whenever the song went off, like, or they would say, okay, here's the number, and then you got
Mhm.
to go, and there was only a limited amount of rooms, so it's not like every it wasn't 450 rooms. It's like whatever
Mhm.
it is, and the problem with that is that so like Ji Hoon and the team that we're following, they were a team of six,
Mhm.
right? And so whenever they had to separate three and three, and then they had to separate five or six, and
Mhm.
so some of them couldn't make it, and so they would have to find another room and things like that.
Mhm.
But there was two people that ended up rising from that group as being the kind of the captain and the co-captain, right? And so we find out about the co-captain that he was more than what we originally thought, right? So player number one uh, is actually someone from the first season, right? Just like Jihoon 456, right? Player number one is actually the guy who's running the whole thing,
Mhm.
right? He's the boss,
Yeah, they call him the mask man or something.
the mask man, right? And so everybody they're in their their pink sweatsuits, and then they got the mask, and so but this guy, player number one, he looks kind of like Doctor Doom. He's got his black cloak, and he's got this black mask that it looks pretty cool actually.
Mhm.
And so but he's the one that organizes the whole thing, and he runs the whole show. And so, but he ends up being a player, and I think it's because of 456.
Mhm.
He sees 456 is going to ruin everything, so he's like, "I'm going to be a player because I want to be able to influence it."
Yeah.
And so, the a weird thing about it is that I was watching another show. You know how they have these breakdowns and these Easter eggs and stuff like that. Well, I don't know for sure. I got to look at it, but the in the first season there was an old man that seemed like he was out of his mind, and he was player number one in that
Mm,
season, right?
okay.
Well, the theory is that old man was player number. It goes generation, like it's a family thing,
Mm,
and so I just thought that was interesting, and
mm,
so it's not just like a group of people that are doing it. It like goes, like, I think we're going to end up finding out that it's like generations of people that have been doing this, you know um, and maybe they're doing it for population control, maybe it's just because they're doing evil, it's like or both. And but I thought that was pretty interesting, that player number one, because imagine, like, he could just have people shot, but he wants to get in the game because it's like that's he's about that life,
mhm,
and so he wants to go in there, and even some of them, I don't know if he was like one of the challenges, I don't know if he was like pretending or whatever, but he was acting like he was fumbling and messing up,
oh
and
yeah.
he well, I guess he knew he wasn't going to get shot, you know like, I think if it came down to it, they weren't going to shoot him, but he was playing like a player. You didn't really know, like if we weren't watching the show, we would have never known that he was the one running the show. So he fooled everybody. He fooled Ji Hoon, thinking that he was loyal to him, and they were kind of sharing like really personal stuff, and so it was just kind of interesting there. But yeah, so he was there, and so the end of first season, he ended up shooting his own nephew, right?
It was his brother.
It was his brother.
Mhm.
Okay. So his brother was looking for him,
Mhm.
right? So his brother was looking for him, only to find out that he was actually the man running. Like, he doesn't know that he was running it, right? he didn't realize that he was running. He just knew that he was there.
Right.
And so he gets shot.
Uh-huh.
He gets shot, and then he doesn't remember like how to get there or whatever, and so he but he sees his brother, and that's how the first season ends. And so the second season, he's like, he's back as a police officer, but he's working on the streets,
Yeah.
and so he's not in crime investigation, and so he's on the streets, and he's just like, you know what, no one's gonna help me. Everybody thinks I'm crazy, so I'm just gonna sit here and just write people tickets, and I'm not gonna worry about it, right? Since I get no help. But he gets he gets drawn back into it, and so he's trying to he hires a guy with the boat to go and try to find places where the island might be.
Yeah.
And then they end up like linking up with Jihoon's crew, right? And so that they could go out again, but the captain of the boat, I think he's like
Yeah,
he's on the other side.
I think he's in on
Yeah, because he's like, I found you, but then he's like, they went everywhere, and I think he knew all
it.
along, but he's like leading him astray, so that way, keep him occupied, keep him distracted.
Yeah, because while they were out, trying to look for the island, he the some of the people that were there like to help, they had drones,
Hmm.
and then one night he messed with a drone
Yeah.
so that they wouldn't be able to work. And then one of the guys that was like part of the team of the drones, he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
he threw him overboard.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep. Yep.
Threw him overboard, and then that guy's gone, and so he couldn't tell anybody else. Like, so hey, this guy's suspicious. Like he's messing with their stuff,
Hmm.
and so that's the reason why we think that he might be connected to the Squid Game leadership or whatever.
Yeah. 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 Most definitely. I mean, why else would he? Why else would he do
Yeah.
that, right? Unless he has his own agenda, like maybe I don't know. If he's not for them, I don't see why he would do that,
Mhm.
right? And so anyway, so they're trying to find this place, and then and so I think that the captain of the boat is communicating with them because they put together a plan where Jihoon ends up putting a tracker in his tooth,
Mhm.
right? And so they think, okay, this is the way that it's going to go. I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to you can track me so that you can find where the place is at, and then you kind of infiltrate the place, and then
Mhm.
we can arrest them or whatever, right? Well, so they follow the tracker, and then only to find out that the organization already knew, and so they took the tracker out of Jihoon's tooth,
Mhm.
and they just took the little
The
chip
little chip.
because he still had his tooth,
Mhm.
and so he didn't even know until he realized. I don't know why he actually checked his tooth.
It was that first. It was the first game that they played red light green light, and
Hmm.
then he took it out. It was like a false tooth because they actually pulled his real tooth out
Hmm.
and they put a fake one. He took it out and he looked and the chip wasn't there.
Hmm.
And then because he had gotten knocked out in the limo
Hmm.
while and that's how they took him back to the island. And so he's like, I'm on my own.
Hmm.
Nobody knows where I'm
Yeah. 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 And so he has to
at.
play the game, right?
Yeah.
And so the second game, it's like in between that game and the third game. So they had another vote, right? And so obviously they kept getting beat by the people that wanted to stay,
Mm.
and so they had a moment to where they were like tied, and so they were tied, and so per the rules, I guess, they said whenever we have a tie, then what we do is we let you sleep on it to think about
Mm.
it, right? But in between those times, they're like staging the scene so that people can attack other
Yeah, it
people,
was
right?
after the third game.
Hmm.
So they did the third game, which was that uh
Like around that track.
around that track
Hmm.
because Thanos was still alive then.
Okay, okay.
So
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. So it's like, so the track game, that was kind of interesting. I thought that when they were fighting each other, I thought that was before. But so they have these challenges where it's like a circuit, right?
Mhm.
You're on the track, and and you're on the circuit, and you're doing different games.
Mhm.
And
Tied with your legs tied to there's five players, and so they're lined up, side by side, and so their legs are tied like
yeah.
whatever's close to you, and so they have to walk like that. And then there's five games, and each one plays one game, and they have a time limit. And if you play all games successfully, and you have to get past the finish line before the time's out, or
hmm
else you're eliminated.
you're eliminated, right? And so most people get eliminated, but our crew, obviously, they get going. And so some of them are really like, one of them is that card game where you flip the card over, and then another one is where it's almost like jacks,
Yeah.
where they got these little cubes where you got to pick them up, and then catch it on your hand.
Mhm.
And then another one's like hacky sack where you got to, hit it a certain amount of
Mhm.
times. And was the other one where they draw it, the like little cake, or
No,
was that just his dream?
that was a dream. That's from first. So another one was the top. That spin the top,
No, spin the top.
and
One of them was
then
throw the rock, the stone.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
so they had five games that they had to each complete successfully, and so that was a little. It was a little like stressful to watch because it's like, okay, if you're the last person and all you need is just do the game and then pass, because we could see the timer too in the background where they were like 15 seconds,
hmm
and 14, and I'm like, you guys have to hurry up.
And you have to complete it as a team, right? So it's not like you can't do it on your own. It's like if your team fails, you get eliminated too. And so, you know, they're introducing like you're getting to know more characters as it's going on, right? So it's not just your main the main team, Jihoon, and those people that are one of them is his best friend, and then we got the player number one that is running the whole thing on his team. But then there's a kid that was a Marine, that was part of their team, and you get to kind of see him and how he interacts with people. But then on the other team, you got the you got the former military person who she was transitioning, her gender. She was transitioning her gender. She ends up being a great character, and and so you get her, and then you have the shaman lady that she's like a witch or whatever, and she was annoying.
Yeah.
She was annoying too. Thanos was annoying, but then she was annoying too because she was like all trying to be all like mystical, and this is I don't know, God's will for me not to do it or whatever, and then the one girl slaps her like, hey, my life is here too, so you better get it together. And so they introduced this a couple characters, and you start to connect with them, right? So so whenever they some of them lose, you end up like, oh man, I can't believe that person's gone, you know. So that was the second one, right?
And the third one.
The third one, right? And so uh
So after that one, that's where they had
mhm,
the tie of either quit or continue, and so they gave them a night to think about it. And so during that night, that's when player 456 said, we have to sleep under the bed,
mhm,
and so that we can protect each other, because that, he knew it was coming.
mhm,
People are going to try and eliminate other people so that they'll have less people on each side, and then that way they'll, win if everybody voted the same way they did the first time.
mhm.
And so they were also giving them food, right?
Yeah.
And so we did notice that the last time they gave them food, that they give them a fork.
Mhm,
And so that's the night that they had to sleep over, to make the decision right the next day,
mhm.
and then they go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and so Thanos goes, and
In
he's
it's a men's
in the
bathroom, so
men's
they're both in the
restroom.
men's
He's going to provoke. MG coin. Like they're him and his buddy like are bullying this coin guy, because they lost money
lost money because of
on
him.
because of him, right? But he's kind of like, I didn't tell you to do it or whatever, and
Mhm.
so he's actually a good guy, but I guess he scammed them, right? I guess, and so they get into a fight in the restroom,
Yeah,
and it turns bloody,
yeah.
and then so he ends up that MG coin ends up finding, was it a fork or was it a knife or something?
Well, they had a fork
Hmm.
because that's the utensil they gave them when they were eating food, and so they had it with them, and so the other people did
Hmm.
had them as well, and so they were just stabbing each other, and
Hmm.
and they got eliminated
Yeah.
that way, and so so they come back out of the bathroom, and each one is explaining, the people on the that wanted to quit, they attacked us, and the people that wanted to keep going attacked the people that wanted to quit,
Hmm.
and so it kind of started a little war,
Hmm.
between everybody, and they're sleeping in one big room when bunk beds, and there's nowhere to go,
Hmm.
and so they end up, everything I guess gets calmed down, and then they uh 456 has a plan
Hmm.
uh to try and save everybody, right? Like, let's overtake the guards, right?
Yeah.
We
Yep.
can do it. But here's a plan. It's like, I'm gonna create a riot or whatever. They're gonna come in, and they're probably gonna start beating people up and
Hmm.
just act like if you're
You're dead or something.
knocked out, right,
Yeah.
or something. And then you will overtake them and get their guns,
Hmm.
and then that way we can take over
Hmm.
this place, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like the
Towards the end of it, right? So they
last few episodes.
successfully do that, right? They create a mutiny, right? And so they start taking the weapons of the guards, and their goal is to get to the top
Hmm.
where the main boss is. The problem is the main boss is within their ranks,
Yes, it's
right? And they
there.
don't even know it's player number one,
Yeah.
right? And so he's playing the game with them
Hmm.
all the way up until the very end, until they end up like they get really close, like they're,
Hmm.
I mean, like so close. And so they had to break up between the group that was, like they all go in, but then they have to break up in like maybe a team of four, Jihoon and his guy, and then, I mean, his best friend,
Hmm.
player number one, and another guy. They split
Yeah,
up,
player
right?
number one had two guys
Hmm.
that went, because he told 456 that there's another way to go,
Hmm.
and he ended up going that way, but then he had the guy two guys that was with him go ahead of him, and he killed them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he was still like, they had walkie talkies, so he was communicating with 456 and saying, "Oh, they got us," and he let him hear him shoot,
Hmm.
and then he shot another shot, like, to make him believe that he got killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now 456 was like, "Oh my gosh, like, we're out of here. We don't have any bullets.
They were running
We're
out.
running out. They ran out of
Yeah.
ammo, and there's guards coming out of everywhere, right? I
Hmm.
mean, there's just a lot of guards. I don't think they would have been able to
Nope.
take them with the people that they had out there.
Right.
It was too much. So in the the last episode, that's, they were fighting, going back and forth. So then player one, uh, makes it seem like he got killed, and then so he 456 and his friend, they don't have any ammo, and then they get captured,
Hmm.
right? But then they capture them, and they have them on their knees, and then the one with the black mask comes out.
Player number one.
Hmm.
Yep.
He comes out, and then he ends up killing 456's friend
Hmm.
in front of him, and that just like breaks him down again.
Yeah.
It was just devastating to him.
Yeah. And but he tells them, he said, this is what happens for trying to be a hero, right? Like he really, like he taunts him with
Hmm.
that. And so it's almost at the end you kind of feel like it doesn't matter what you do, right? They're just too powerful. Like they're gonna always win, and they've been doing this game, for generations probably. Another Matrix reference, I think, is that like the one, right? He was supposed to save the human race, right? But then when he gets to the architect says, we've been doing this. You're the sixth one,
Mhm.
and so this is how it goes, right? And so that's how I kind of felt with Jihoon. He's like Neo, right? And then the player number one is like the architect, and he's like, I've been doing this for a whole, and this is what happens when you try to play the hero route,
Mhm.
because they were trying to recruit him to actually, let's do this together, and then
Mhm.
maybe you can hand this, control this or run this thing in the future.
Yeah.
But what else? That's where it
That's
ends.
where it ends. So also the way they were transitioning from show to show, because usually an episode ends with something climactic, and then
Like a
there's
cliffhanger.
like a cliffhanger,
Hmm.
something that's finished, and then it's like, oh, what's gonna happen next, right?
Hmm.
The way they were ending and starting was like they were ending with, oh, the next game is this,
Yeah.
and we're like, oh man, we have to, you know, and then the next episode would start with the game, right? And it's
Yeah.
like that's kind of like a different way to go from episode to episode, I
Hmm.
thought.
Yeah. And because it has the same effect where it's like a cliffhanger, but it's also like, man, I gotta watch what's the next game, what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
and then the episodes were about over 50 minutes, and so it's almost an hour, and so
Yeah.
we're like,
Yeah.
you would want to keep watching, but then you have to sleep, and we
Yeah.
have to work.
Yeah.
And
Now we have gone to where we're like, hey, we just need to watch another episode. But I think now we're kind of a little bit more seasoned,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so we're
we
like,
can
okay, we
stop.
could do a couple episodes, but we still have to work. It's not like we watch shows for a living,
Yeah.
But that would be cool to kind of watch
Mhm.
shows and just
And then just
talk
give
about
our opinion and
opinion
get
on them.
paid.
Yeah, get paid for it, you know. But we just enjoy this stuff, and so I wanted to as we get ready to close here, just wanted to once again just thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we entertain you. Maybe we encouraged you to want to watch the Squid Games, or maybe you want to put together your Showmates crew. Right, me and my wife are Showmates, but we in the past we had friends that would I call it movie club, and we'd go watch movies together, and watching fights together. These are things that I like to do, with whenever we get a chance, right? And so we thank you for tuning in to that, but we invite you to our Etsy shop to take a look at some of the Showmate designs that we have, and some of the other brands, and you'll see some of the popular shows that we have there, and also if you want to comment on this video, let us know if there's a show that you would like for us to talk about. We'll definitely do that. The next show, we're finishing up a show right now. It's called Landman. It's with Billy Bob Thornton. It's pretty good, and so tomorrow, I believe, is the final episode of season one, and so we'll be gearing up to talk about that one, Landman. But that's a good show. We'll check it out. But there's some other ones on down the road that we're going to tune into, and I mean, we watched The Penguin not too long ago. When Probably need to sit down and talk about that. But I also want to do like current shows,
Yeah.
because I mean, we can't go back and do Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, even though we love those shows, or maybe we can. But anyways, we just wanted to say thank you, and you want to sign us off. Red
Well, we are the Alpha Reds. We're showmates, and the Alpha team out.
Alpha out.